So that's a good thing. Paul, you are the love of my life. Thank you so much. This is the first time I think since we have the new. I started talking
last week.
So, oh yeah, last. Beautiful room full of wonderful people. All so very much for being here today. It's really exciting. But I've got to say it again. I just wish you could stand here and look out. I mean, it's just beautiful. Smiling, happy faces, and beautiful people. I mean, there's so much brain power in this room. It's almost kind of scary. But I love it. I mean, it's really exciting and thrilling to have you here. Please just keep enjoying your day, because I want to at the piano for being such a talented person. Thank you, Stephanie. Are you over 12? She looks like a baby, I swear. My mother was right. The older you get, the younger everybody else gets. Okay, and if you'll all stand, David Jones is going to come up here and lead us. If he's, I don't know where he went off to. Okay. Well, let's see. Austin, is David back there?
He's here. That'll be me singing.
I saw it. I saw him. Is he back there? No, he's not. Okay. Larry Wickham, would you please? Would you, in case of emergency, Larry Wickham, would you please come forward and do the invocation, or no, the pledge and the
national pledge and national anthem and the invocation and the introduction of the feet. Let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Would you join with me in prayer now? Thank you for the joy of being here at Rotary. For all of these friends who have gathered together, we come together today, Father, in a spirit of service and in a spirit of helping others. And we pray that as we meet together, you would just open our eyes and our hearts to see the needs around us and to be committed to meeting those needs at every opportunity where you would lead us. We thank you for the food that we enjoy today and for the fellowship that both be a blessing to us as we move forward in our week this week. And we ask all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Well, can I greet people now too? Okay, let's have greetings. Please have a seat. And let me say how glad we come. David, do you want to do the greeting today?
There he is. Go ahead.
Okay. We're glad you're here today. We've got a good group, and it's always a pleasure to see you here at Rotary. I want to ask if we have any visiting Rotarians in the room. Anybody here from another Rotary club? Could you tell us who you are?
My name is Johnny Ortiz from South Tyler Rotary.
South Tyler Rotary. Welcome here. We're glad to have you with us. Hope you'll come back often. Anybody else? Any other visiting Rotarians? All right, then I'm wondering if we have guests with us today, and I know we have some. Anybody on this side of the room with a guest? How about in the middle? Rochelle, I know you've got a guest.
My guest today is Kyle Roach. She's our reconstruction manager at Serve Pro of Tyler. We came to support my wonderful other guest, Sam Smith, who's a dear friend of mine. Looking forward to hearing about everything that they do for our community. It's amazing. Thank y'all.
Okay, we're glad to have you with us. Thanks for being here. All right, how about on the left side of the room, Robert?
Yeah, this is my friend, stand up here. Sure. This is my friend Steve Rockmore. He is the newly minted Director of Living Alternatives.
Great, well, we're glad to have you with us, Steve. Thank you. How about in the lineup over here on the side? No, we're all home.
Just the
All right.
usual suspects.
Well, again, thanks for being here. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Awesome. Yes, please feel so welcome here today. I know it's just a bunch of new faces and people you've never seen before in your whole life. But we're so happy and welcoming to have you here. And I have to say, Johnny Ortiz, it's really special to have you here. We call his wife Miss Magic Hands. She comes to our office pretty regularly and gives us neck and shoulder massages, and she is phenomenal. Also, I want to say how wonderful it is to live in Tyler, Texas. You know, I'm sitting next to a guy whose parents had a sporting goods shop over on Shelley Drive, Matthew Brown Sporting Goods. Who remembers Matthew Brown? Yeah, and Jennifer Harvey came over and was asking me about volunteers, if we would have enough people to volunteer for the air show for Camp B that Camp B's putting on to raise funds for that magnificent veterans organization. And when she left, he said, "Was she Jennifer Davis?" He said, "She went to high school with my sister." You know, I mean, I love that, you know, and I won't say how old Kyle is, but he's young. But it wasn't, yeah, they're both 29, but it was a few years back, and that's so special about Tyler. I mean, I just love it. 6 degrees of separation. Anyway, enough about that. Okay, Claudia and JB3, thank you so much for the greetings. It was so nice and happy to walk in and see your beautiful faces. Okay, you're right, but I didn't see him out there. Huh. And he's hanging his head. Now what? All right, Claudia, thank you so much for doing it for both of them. Let's give her a hand. It's a fun job. If you haven't signed up for Greeter, really great way to meet everybody in the club and their guests, and a good way to remember their names. Okay, and now, for always, my very favorite part of the week, just about. Paul Gleiser, our own famous Paul Gleiser, is going to bring us this week in history.
Starting today on the 22nd of April, 1945, while in the underground bunker in Berlin that he'd occupied more or less continuously since January of that year, Adolf Hitler was informed by one of his generals that no German defense was put up against invading Russian forces at Eberswalde, 30 miles northeast of Berlin. Hitler informed all in the bunker that the war was lost and that suicide was the only available course. Hitler took that course on April 30th. On the 23rd, 1985, after being consistently beaten in the long-running Pepsi Challenge taste test, who remembers? Coca-Cola introduced a new formula in its flagship drink. The move proved to be one of the most monumental marketing disasters in all of history. The original formula was returned to production as Coca-Cola Classic 3 months later. The new formula survived as Coke 2 until 2002 when it was taken out of production. The word classic has now been removed from labels in the U.S., although some packages still say, if you look closely, original taste. On the 24th of April, 1945, having taken office 12 days earlier on the death of Franklin Roosevelt, President Harry Truman was briefed on the atomic bomb by Secretary of War Henry Stimson and Manhattan Project Director General Leslie Groves. First seen by Truman as a way to keep post-war Stalin in check, it was eventually used 4 months later, twice against Japan in August, bringing World War II to an end. On the 25th of April in 1953, an article by Francis Crick and James Watson bearing the title, "The Molecular Structure of Nucleic Acids," was published in the April edition of the magazine Nature. The article correctly described, for the first time, the double helix construction of the deoxyribonucleic acid molecule, we call it DNA. DNA carries the genetic instructions for the functioning, growth, and reproduction of all known organisms.
Say that one more time. How do you say the name of it?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Very good.
Impressive. That's why we all say DNA. On the deoxyribonucleic acid. I'll do that. Okay. 1954, on the 26th of April, 1954, children at the Franklin Sherman Elementary School in McLean, Virginia, became the first of nearly 1.8 million children to be included in the trials of the Salk polio vaccine. A story near to Rotarians' hearts. The trial was the first to use the now standard double-blind method in which neither patient nor administering doctor knows whether the patient is receiving a real vaccine or a placebo. A year later, the trials were declared a success, and the Salk vaccine went on to virtually eliminate polio in the developed world. On the 27th of April, 1805, during the Barbary Coast Wars to put down rampant piracy, a small contingent of U.S. Marines captured Derna, Libya, on the shores of Tripoli. It was the first time a U.S. flag was raised in military victory over foreign soil. And on the 28th of April, 1789, 3 weeks into a voyage from Tahiti to the West Indies, Master's Mate Fletcher Christian led a mutiny against William Bligh, the captain of the HMS Bounty. Bligh and his 18 supporters were set adrift in the Pacific Ocean, effectively a death sentence. Yet they made it to Timor, 3,600 miles away, on June the 14th. Birthdays in the coming week. Today, Jack Nicholson turns 84. Who remembers One Day at a Time? Valerie Bertinelli turns 60 tomorrow. Actor Al Pacino turns 81 on Sunday. Carol Burnett turns 88 on Monday. And Anne Margaret turns 80 on Wednesday. It's the week of octogenarians. That's this week in history.
Wonderful. I just think that's so awesome. And I've always been fascinated by the word placebo. I mean, I just think, the whole idea is just amazing. Okay, I also wanted to say that on April the 18th, which was last Sunday, and April the 18th is a very special day in my life because two very important people I know were born on that day. One was my daughter, my only biological child, Monica. And the other was Dr. D.M. Edwards. But on April the 18th, last Sunday, was the anniversary of the first shot being fired that started the Civil War at Mount Sumter. And I actually got to Fort Sumter. I actually got to visit there one time. It was amazing. So that's all the history lessons for today. Okay. Colby? You'll give Colby a big hand. He's making. I have to brag on Colby. He came into my life thanks to Austin. I guess, I don't know, months or a year ago, probably about a year ago. And I swear, I'm a Christian, and I don't talk about this a lot, but this was God's way of bringing me a son. I had girls in my life, 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters. Anyway, Cody has made great strides. I'm gonna say 3 months. He actually was licensed a week ago, and 3 days ago, 3 weeks ago. And I know that last night he got home at 7 after showing all day long, all over the whole district of East Texas. I don't know how many counties he covered, but I think he's in love. I think he's going to have the passion for this business that I've always had, and I've never been so proud of anybody in my life. Anyway.
You drank the spirit off, too.
I did, yeah. No, I looked well again, but it was actually on accident. So I wasn't really wanting to, but you know how it goes. Yeah, if I could get Jimmy Hutchins and Larry Wickham to come up, please. We're gonna have an inductee today.
Yay!
Glad you got to make it today. Yes, sir. Awesome. I have the privilege today to present Jimmy Hutchins, who has been proposed by Larry Wickham and approved for membership in the club by the board of directors in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws of the Rotary Club of Tyler. Approval indicates that this candidate, they're supposed to be, Rich actually didn't make it today, are worthy representative of their calling and supportive of the ideals of Rotary. They reflect the high ethical standards expected of all Rotarians and understand service above self is not just a motto, but a goal that all Rotarians strive for. They have agreed to accept the obligations attached with membership in Rotary and understand that they represent Rotary in public, private, and social life. Sponsor, will you please introduce your...
I'd be happy to, Colby. I'm proud to be here to introduce Jim Hutchins as a new member of our club. Jim has been a friend of mine for many years. We have traveled together, vacationed together, and he's a great addition to our club. Jim is a salesman by nature. He owns a business here called Green Line Indoor and Outdoor Environments, where he does remodeling and rebuilding of things, or he'll come and design your patio and build it all and put it together for you. He does all kinds of projects, and he, like some others in this club, has been very busy in recent days because of the challenges of the Snowmageddon that we all experienced. He's staying plenty busy, but if you need good help, Jim is a very conscientious man who does excellent work and has great people working for him who are really experts at what they do, and I know he'll do a good job for you. I've been privileged to have him as a friend. He plays golf with me and is not too critical of my golf game, and I really love that. He has a real heart for service. He has been on a number of mission trips. One particular group that he's gone with is a group called Happy Feet that goes into really backward areas he's been to South America a couple of times. They go and take shoes for people there who have no shoes, and they wash their feet and present the gospel to them and serve them in that way. Jim's been on several of those trips. He's deeply involved in his church and other community efforts, and I think he's going to be a tremendous asset to our club. So I'm glad to recommend him.
Do you know the 4-way test and understand that it is be applied to all the things you think, say, and do? You have been informed of the requirements of membership in the Tyler Rotary Club. Do you accept them and agree upon the ideals of Rotary and the virtue and be an active part of the club? On behalf of the board of directors of the Tyler Rotary Club, you are hereby inducted into membership. Here is your new member packet and your new member badge. Woo!
There you go. Congratulations.
Is there anything you would like to say to your Rotary Club?
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to serving with each and every one of you, every way we can, and assist you in anything that you have to do, especially when it involves the Rotary situation. I have a lot of close friends in here, and the only thing I will say is I will not promise to be non-critical of Larry on the golf course. If you have ever played golf with Larry, you know why I would make that comment. I appreciate the opportunity. Look so much forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in welcoming the newest Rotarian.
Thank you, Colby, for that beautiful induction. And I want to say that I will be your first reference for Jimmy. During Snowden, he really came to the rescue for me in a pinch. Rochelle had 195 telephone calls on Monday by the time I got a hold of her, which was around 10 o'clock. And of course, I had clients screaming at me that they had to have help. Their houses had burst pipes and everything, but Jimmy came through for me in not just one instance, but several, and he's wonderful and the most conscientious person you could ever ask for. So, Jimmy, welcome to our club. We're thrilled to have you. Okay, is everybody signed up for Bellagio Del Vino next Tuesday at 5:30? Be there or be square. We're going to have a wonderful social. My husband can't make it, but I'm bringing my mother, who is 3 times more fun than he is anyway. She just turned 91, and believe me, she is entertaining. She's never been on the stage. She steals the spotlight. But so that is going to be I don't have on my glasses, $38 per person. So it's kind of rich, but it will be worth every penny of it, and you'll be so glad you're there. So be sure and get your sign up in, and I think Holly had them out here today, and make sure your name's on the list.
If you can let me know and prepay today, that would be great. I have to turn in a head count tomorrow to Bellagio. So just let me know, and if you didn't bring cash or credit card or whatever you needed today, just let me know. I can do stuff over the phone and we'll figure it out. But
she wants your money today. Did you get that? In other words, step up, please. Jack, I hope you and your wife will join us Tuesday. Okay, good. I'm so glad. Jack's always a big ball at these socials too. Let's see here. District Training Assembly, who all signed up for that? Don't raise all your hands at one time. Okay, I have signed up, and if you've never been to a district training, I've only been to one myself, but it is well worth the time. And it's on morning, but it's still worth it, and you will be so glad you went, and you don't have to go every time, but it's an experience that every Rotarian should have under their belts, because it's wonderful, and you will learn so much. There's so much to know about this organization that we don't know, and I mean, I read it all the time at night. When I go to bed, I read about Rotary, and I mean, there are not enough hours in the week for me to enlighten you a little bit about the magnificent things that Rotary has done in this world, on this planet, in the country, and in all the communities where there are clubs like ours. So thank you for being here today, and if you're not a member already, think about it seriously, because it's really one of the greatest groups I've ever belonged to. No, it is the greatest group I've ever belonged to, but it is a magnificent organization. Okay, that's going to be 400 North Fredonia in Longview on May the 1st, and it will only be from 8:30 to 2:30 at United Methodist Church. It's a great group of people too. It's fun. It's kind of like a big party, actually. Okay, all right, and then everybody knows what's going to happen on June the 5th, right?
yeah.
our centennial celebration right here at Holly Tree, and it will be incredible. I mean, 100 years of this club functioning, Rotary Club of Tyler. So I think as a member, it's almost mandatory for you to be here, because there won't be that many of us that can say that in 100 years. So come to Centennial. It's going to be wonderful. There's going to be a lot going on, and it will be a really great event for us all to join in together, and the camaraderie and the fellowship and the food and the entertainment's it'll be quite an evening. I'm not going to read you all this other stuff because it's kind of long, but also I want to remind you that Judge Ken Starr will be here on June the 10th to speak on his new book. And if you don't know who Judge Ken Starr is, maybe you remember Monica Lewinsky.
Yes.
Okay, so enough about that. Our program for April the 29th, gosh, I wish I brought my glasses. That's right, isn't it, the 29th? Okay, is Smitty Root with Leadership Tyler. I love Leadership Tyler. And now then, I'd like to.
Centennial celebration.
That's not here. 30 or something. I mean, we're not gonna keep you up all night long, but maybe. You never can tell once you get started around here. Okay, and Bill Pascal, our president-elect, is coming forward next Thursday morning. Put it on your calendar early to say a little prayer for Bill. He's going to be having a procedure done. Nothing life-threatening, but anytime you go under anesthetic, it's important. Yes, Larry?
I don't want to take away from that.
Okay.
But I
You already did.
I do think this is a great moment for Dr. Edwards to give us a 20-second information about the campaign and reunion that's happening.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sorry, Bill.
We're praying for you, Bill.
Well, thank you. The question is, which way are you praying?
Want to extend an invitation to everyone in the club. There are two opportunities for the public to come out. There'll be an exhibition of artifacts from Camp Fannin in the hospitality room at the sleep-in on Donnybrook behind Lowe's next to the Social Security office. That'll be Friday afternoon from 3 to 6, and then come out to the UT Health Science Center to the Camp Fannin Memorial. Antique military vehicles around the memorial and a wreath line there at 1 o'clock in memory of the more than 200,000 infantry.
Thank you, Tina. You know, events like that. This weekend? This weekend, yeah. And it's supposed to be. Yeah, tomorrow and Saturday is supposed to be really beautiful. Events like this that are open to the public are really just so wonderful, and I mean, you feel like you should be paid. But I encourage everybody, just go. You don't have to dress up or anything. It'll be casual, but lots and lots of wonderful people will be there, and it's really honoring our veterans, and they have a very special place in my heart. Anyway, President-elect Bill, will you announce our speaker for today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I am having a procedure next week. It's nothing major. I'm having my second lobotomy. So all I need is one more lobotomy and I'm good. Okay? That's all.
We are in agreement.
Don't start.
You have that recorded,
Okay?
so you know.
Larry's prayer was spot on. There are sometimes when you find people and they're not looking for a handout, hand up. And service, Rotarians, that's what we do. We look for those type of people. Our speaker today is a gentleman named Sam Smith, who's there of the Hand Up Network. And that's what they do. They provide a hand up, not a handout. He's currently doing a lot of work in Panola County with tornado victims. And what they do is they focus on developing programs to encourage, equip, and empower those who have the want to and the actual motivation to improve their circumstances. Okay? These people aren't looking for a handout, they're looking for a hand up to get themselves out of the quagmire. Sam's been on Fox News, Newsmax, Christian Post, and Christianity Today. So please welcome our speaker for today, Sam Smith.
Well, good afternoon. It's so nice to be here. I have to, it's been kind of fun to sit here and listen to all the announcements. I have spoken to Rotary clubs on every continent in the world. I have worked alongside thousands of Paul Harris fellows. Oh, can you not hear me very well?
There we go.
Anyway, I was saying I've spoken to Rotary clubs on every continent around the world. And I've worked with a lot of Paul Harris fellows that have done amazing things. And I tell you that story because 37 years ago, there was a young man in high school that was honored as one of the citizens by Rotary, and he's standing before you today, honored by this club. And I just want you to know that you may not think that you have an impact worldwide, but you do, because I can promise you, the first Rotary club I ever was involved with was the Tyler Rotary. And so thank you for helping, kickstart this. Tell you a little bit about who we are. First of all, I was the CEO of Mercy Ships for many years, so some of you probably met me in that process. And then I took over a group called Medical Ministry International. And we operate out of Allen, Texas, but we ran hospitals and clinics in 80 countries around the world. So we took kind of what we were doing at Mercy Ships and really took it to a totally different level. Our focus has always been about developing programs that are long-lasting. So I am not a welfare person, so I can tell you right now, if you're looking for a handout, I'm going to give you a hug and tell you God loves you and send you on your way. But if you're actually serious about trying to help yourself, then we're what you're all about. And I tell you that story because, I've been in the jungles of Africa. I've been all over the Philippines. We've worked with tsunamis, hurricanes. I was on the front line of the Ebola crisis. I've seen a lot of things. And when Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, my team came back. We were in Rockport the day after the hurricane hit. And we soon realized that a lot of the things that we had been dealing with all over the world were actually happening in our own backyard. And I'll be flat honest with you, that's just unacceptable. There's just no reason for that to happen. I'm not going to pick on my FEMA friends too bad, but I'll tell you the quick story. So the FEMA director shows up after I had arrived in Rockport. He shows up with his trailer and walks up and goes, well, it looks like you've got it under control. If you need me, I'll be in the trailer. And I never saw him again. So it's those kind of things that just really bug you when you know that you're trying to help people that really have suffered things, sometimes not through their own means, but we realized very quickly that we needed to come back home. So in 2018, we had a meeting. There was a group that was operating in the old First Assembly of God Church downtown Tyler, and it was an underperforming nonprofit, was not doing well. And I was asked to kind of take a look at it and give them some advice, and they didn't like the advice I gave them, by the way. The advice was they should shut it down and use those resources elsewhere. But a couple of months later, I got a phone call and said, hey, what about you? Would you just take this and do whatever you want to with it? And I kind of laughed because we've been talking about it since Hurricane Harvey that we were ready to start to maybe bring some things back home. A lot of the team that work with me at Mercy Ships, work with me at MMI, we've all been together for more than 2 decades in doing this type of work. And we all basically decided together that we were going to come home. And so we launched the Hand Up Network in January of 2019. Our focus is to be developmental and mindset. And so we're not here to basically reinvent the wheel. If there are organizations that are actually doing things and doing things well, we partner with them. If they don't do them well, we don't partner with them. It's the way it goes. But we started focusing on mentorship. We started focusing on people that were really struggling with a tough season in life. And how do we help develop a life plan to get them back up on their feet? I tell you that story a little bit because, back when we were working overseas, one of the things that kind of hit home with me, and I've always remembered, we started an agricultural co-op in an area of Liberia. And the funny story about that is the president of the country and I are friends. She was amazingly, she was the first female ever elected the head of state on the continent of Africa. Her name is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And she told me that there were 30 villages that during the Diamond War, anybody seen the movie Blood Diamond? During the Diamond War, a tank went across the bridge and collapsed the bridge, and the tank ended up in the river, and these 30 villages were cut off. And so she was telling me that they were losing somewhere between 7 to 10 people per village a week due to malnutrition, lack of good. So can you do something about it? And so we built a little bamboo bridge, took our teams over, went and sat down with these chiefs of these 30 villages, and basically told them that we would teach them how to develop an agricultural co-op where they could have food, and they could also have food then to take into town and be able to sell. That should give them income, but also make other people healthy. Well, I will tell you that about half of the chiefs agreed, and they signed in every day, and they worked hard. The other 15, though, basically didn't want to work. They just wanted us to give them something, and they kind of went off on their own. Well, pretty soon, those 15 that stayed were all of a sudden reaping the benefits of the yield from the crops that were being born, or they were able to feed all of their villages. They had food left over. They went back into town. They sold it. They were able to rebuild the bridge. They were those other chiefs all of a sudden started realizing, oh man, they were serious. So guess what happened? All 30 showed up and started working together and signing in every day. Pretty soon, we had 30 villages that were actually healthy and doing well. I tell you that story too because during our breaks, we would have a little Bible study and understand these 30 villages were all Muslim. And we would have a little Bible study, and it was just us, and we would just sit around and kind of talk and read the Bible, and somebody would lead it each day. And next thing you know, a few people would join in, and a few people would join in, and I just tell you that story. So right now, today, in that area of Liberia, there are 30 Christian villages that are doing fantastic, and there's over 300 people in each one of the Bible studies twice a week. So God works in amazing ways. So I share all those stories with you. That is our focus at Hand Network, is to develop things where we help people that are serious about helping themselves. And so when we started the mentoring process, we developed an intake program where we basically started to understand what is your life situation. We based it on 5 key areas. And those 5 key areas are: 1, what is your spiritual relationship? Now, we don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, agnostic, it doesn't matter. But we do believe that that is an important aspect of your life. It's a firm foundation stone in what you do. And so we want to understand exactly where you're coming from. Second is, what is your well-being, both physically and mentally? We have a lot of people that have major issues, both physically and mentally, and we need to understand what they're trying to deal with. Some of them self-inflicted, some are not. The third is, what is their financial situation? We have a lot of veterans that come through our door. We work with them every week. Some have full benefits, but they've never tried to access them. In fact, they'd rather live on the street than try to figure out how to do that. And so we're able to work with them and actually help them get their job, get them into a new home. We have quite a few that we've had great success stories with it. They just needed somebody to give them a hand up and help them. The next is, what is their education and skill sets? And a lot of the people we work with, some have dropped out of 2nd grade. We had a charge room nurse at one of our local hospitals, somebody from church. So imagine without she lost her family at the same time. And so she got involved in drugs. Judge Wilson, who's a dear friend of mine who runs the family court here in Tyler, said, you should be in my courtroom. And she said, I don't care. And he says, well, I do care. And so he made her go live at Salvation Army and enter our program. I will tell you, just a few months ago, she got all of her nursing credentials back and she's doing quite well. And so, God works in amazing ways. So it doesn't really matter. Every journey is different for anyone that comes through our door. And so we have no pre-prescribed way that they're going to go about doing it. But what I will tell you is we have somewhere between 35 to 50 different programs that we work either within our organization or work with partner organizations. As an example, if they need a GED, we work with the Literacy Council in Tyler. They provide our GED and ESL training and so forth. But what we found as this was going on is that a lot of the people coming through our doors were victims of crime. And when I say victims of crime, it could be a variety of different things. You can see our little banner back there, it'll tell you a little bit, but abuse victims, family violence, sexual assault, stalking. We've got a huge human trafficking issue in this town. And so things of that nature. So these people are dealing with a variety of different things. Some of them have had victimization occur many, many years ago. And by the time they came through our door, they had been through the medical process, the judicial process, and so forth, and basically had given up. And basically were trying to deal with it on their own. And years later, something would trigger it, and then they would come through our door. And to be honest with you, they were in worse shape than they were ever when they were victimized. And we were basically starting from a much more of a deficit than we would really like. And so we launched what we call our Victim Services Division. And so our Victim Services team is led by a military veteran who actually served on the sexual assault response team in Desert Storm. She was involved with the Department of Defense after she got out of the military, focusing on the issues of sexual assault. And she leads my team that is basically running our victim services component. So what happens now is all the members of law enforcement, when they respond to a sexual assault, domestic abuse, whatever it may be, they actually call us and we respond with them. So while the law enforcement officer is actually doing their investigation, we're taking care of the victim. We go to the victim at the hospital. We work with the SANE nurses. Anybody know what a SANE nurse is in here? Sexual assault nurse examiners. They are the true angels on this planet. Their job is to basically spend as much time as they have to working with that patient to gather evidence and also hope to stabilize their life. We are right there with them in the room, and we're there to basically be the advocate for the patient. And so once that examination is done, all the medical work is done, they turn the patient back over to us, and we begin an extremely long journey. We work with them to secure their living situation. We also help them apply for CBC funding. If you know what that is, that's crime victim compensation. If you're a victim of crime in the state of Texas and you have no access to money, you do have an ability to get money from the state to be able to help stabilize your life. So we help file for that. We work with them through the judicial process. The district attorneys in each county, we know extremely well. They know us well. We work very closely with them. As we go to trial, we'll be there with them and help them through that. Right now in Smith County, just to give you an example, it is somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 years now for a sexual assault to actually go to trial. So this is not CSI. It doesn't get solved in 45 minutes. And unfortunately, a lot of our victims don't understand that. You know, they want the bad guy put in jail, and they basically become victimized more and more because they don't know why is it taking so long to get this to happen. So our goal is to make sure these people are up and running and back and restoring their life long before we ever even make it to a judicial process. I also mentioned that to you because after the judicial process, say the bad guy gets put in jail, eventually a lot of them would come up for parole. And unfortunately, historically, I want to just give you an exact example. We have a young lady that is from one of the counties surrounding Smith County, and she was sexually assaulted by her mother's boyfriend at 14 years old. The perpetrator was convicted and sent to prison for 40 years. He served 20 and was recently released. Now, the victim is now 34, and she was in Walmart shopping with her new daughter and turned the corner and ran right into the guy who had been released, and she didn't even know he was released. And you can imagine what that does to a victim. She was triggered. So what had happened was when they released the person, they contacted the mother because she was the guardian at the time. They didn't contact the victim because she was 14 at the time. And so the mother never told her. And so that's how it happened. So those kind of things should not happen. And so now all the people that work with us, they actually contact us, and we make sure that all the people we're working with are well aware of what's going on. So that's why we inform that. And so the human trafficking issue is huge in this area. We currently are seeing about 75 sexual assaults a month in our regional hospitals and the 2 hospitals. Those are sexual assaults coming from multiple counties. Our main focus, our mandate is 37 counties in East Texas, and I'll explain what we do there. But our focus in the victim services area is really the 12 counties that surround Smith and Gregg, and they all feed into our regional hospitals. And so what happens is if somebody gets assaulted in Upshur County, for instance, there is no sane nurse on duty most of the time at Good Shepherd. So the law enforcement officers will bring that victim all the way into Tyler. When they're en route, they're already calling us, and we meet them at the hospital. And so once we get that victim stable, she lives in Upshur County, so then we have to go back out to Upshur County and make sure that everything is stable and so forth. Another component that I haven't talked with you about is our response teams. And Bill mentioned just briefly to you, we've responded to pretty much everything: tsunamis, hurricanes, Ebola, you name it. We've been on the front lines of that. And so we have an expertise in dealing with natural disasters. And so I believe Jay Brooks was here a few months ago talking to this club. Jay and I work very closely. He's the emergency management coordinator here in this county. But we work with all the county judges and the EMC coordinators, each one of these counties. And so when a tragedy occurs, we come alongside the emergency management team. Now, we're not first responders, and that's not our focus. But we do respond with them, and we basically help manage the chaos. And so while they're out there trying to save lives, we're building a support structure. We deal with all the walk-up volunteers. We also deal with all the donations that come in. And so as an example, just recently we had the tornadoes going through Cherokee and then Rusk and then Panola counties. The county judge, Leanne Jones, asked us to run the Emergency Operations Center for them. And so we are currently still running the Emergency Operations Center in Panola County, dealing with the victims of the tornado. We currently have about 60 total disaster uninsured families, and we're working to develop teams to be able to go in and try to help them rebuild their lives. Obviously, it's going to take months and maybe years to be able to do that, but if it's not us, there's no one else there. And that's what I would point out to you is one of the things that really bothered me about Harvey was when the cameras were there, everybody was there. As soon as the cameras left, everybody left but us. And that's just not acceptable, but it is what it is. So we still have teams right now that are going into van. Actually, the leader of my response teams unit worked with me at Mercy Ships, MMI, and so forth. His home was half damaged during the Van tornadoes, so it's personal. But we still have teams that are going in and helping rebuild a van. We're doing the same thing now over in Pinellas County. What is interesting about all the services that I mentioned to you is that when we originally started this, we were focusing on the victims. We were focusing on the clients. What we have found through this process is we have ended up becoming the sounding board for law enforcement and for our medical community. In fact, a good example, we were driving around with one of the Smith County Sheriff deputies, and he started talking about a case that actually occurred long before we ever started. And he was talking about it, broke down into tears, and talked about it. He said, I don't know if the lady made it or not. And the person riding with him from Hand Up Network looked over and said, I was there. And she's fine. And she's still in our program. And she has lived. She's had 12 surgeries, and she's got 4 more to go. But she has lived, and her kids are fine, and she's doing well. The look on that deputy sheriff's face was unbelievable, just totally broke down in tears in his own squad car. So you can imagine, we had no idea what we were really getting into when we started doing this, that we're as much a support for the medical and law enforcement group as we are anything else. So in our response teams, we focus on 4 areas. We have community outreach, so we're reaching out in the community. We will go to various events to tell people about the services that Hand Up Network offers. And then we have community response teams. And so when we were talking about Snowmageddon a few minutes ago, I got a lot of those phone calls. So when Michelle was getting phone calls, she was getting phone calls from people that could afford the help. I was getting the phone calls from the fire departments and the sheriff's departments that were responding, and the people had nothing. And so I had a 90-year-old widow here in Tyler, Texas, that spent 10 days with no water. And she finally called the fire department, and the fire chief called me at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning to tell me that they'd found this 90-year-old widow, and they'd given her 2 cases of water, but she needed more help than they could offer. Can we do something? And so within 45 minutes, we were there. We found 5 feet of water underneath her house. She had multiple leaks. She had not been able to winterize because she couldn't get around. And she was melting snow for water. And I asked her, I said, why didn't you call somebody? And in typical East Texas speak, well, there's a reason she's 90 years old. And so since that time, we fixed all of her plumbing, got her up and running, and we actually, our other team that I haven't mentioned yet is our prayer and support teams. We have a group of people that may not physically be able to get up on roofs and cut down trees and do things like that, but they have the ability to help. And so they help provide meals, they bring water out to the first responders and our teams, and they also follow up with people we serve. And so we have groups going to visit this lady 3 times a week. And I got to tell you, it's a big rap session. They spend a lot of time hearing. I think they've heard the same story 100 times, but it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful thing. And truthfully, we're honored to be able to do that. I mean, she's a special lady. So that's what our teams do, and that's how we operate. And so what I would basically tell you is that, you know, we came back to this community because we love this community. There is not a better group of people in the world than East Texas. There's not. And they have been supportive of everything that we've done in all these continents all over the world. They volunteered with us, they've donated, they've done a lot of different things. But when we start seeing our own starting to struggle, it's time for us to refocus and really focus locally. There are currently 800 people living on the streets of Tyler, Texas. So when that snowstorm hit and the ice storm came in, I don't know if you saw, but there were a lot of us that rallied every vehicle we had, and we got them off the streets and got them into hotels and so forth. Well, that was a very short-term fix to a long-term problem, and we're trying to address and deal with that. So what I would tell you today is we have 2 major issues in Smith County. One is we don't have a good shelter, and 2, we don't have good transportation for these people that need help. And that's what we're working on, and that's what we're trying to focus on now. But at the end of the day, it's just one step at a time. I tell people all the time, it's how you eat an elephant, and it's one bite at a time, and that's exactly what we're doing. And so got a lot of work ahead. Obviously, our work in the Pinellas County area is going to be something substantial. We have a lot of volunteers. We currently have over 40 churches that work very closely with us. I did want to mention, when I say we have people that partner with us, we don't just talk about people. So if I say they're partnering with us, we actually have an MOU that actually clearly defines our relationship. And so I don't work with everybody. We have 1,300 nonprofits in Smith County. We don't work with all of them. It's not because they're good or bad. It's just they may not do things the way we do it. We're not a welfare group. So if you're looking to just pass out and give out stuff, that's what some groups do. We don't do that. We're there to make sure that you're serious about what you're trying to do, and we try to help you. And so these groups that I tell you that we're partnering with, they're joined at the hip with us. We're working on some mental health issues. The group, NAMI group that has been here in Tyler has been, kind of struggling a little bit, and so we're working on alongside them now. to try to help them, get them established and stable, because the people that we're dealing with, trauma is a major mental illness. And we're dealing with that not only with victimization, but also with people that have lost everything with these tornadoes, hurricanes, and so forth. And so that's Hand Up Network in a quick rundown, because we didn't have a whole lot of time, but be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yes, ma'am.
Can you let everyone know your location as far as, and also that you have that they have a really nice, not a thrift store, but, I mean, tell them.
We do. We're at 200 North Backham, so we're at Backham and First, and so we're 2 blocks down from the sheriff's office, and we're just down the street from the hospitals. It's the old First Assembly of God Church. Now, we do have a little resale store that the previous minister that was there before us had, and we've kept it open. What I will tell you is it's really not there to bring revenue in for the ministry. We actually use the inventory to respond to issues. So as an example, Child Protective Services, Adult Protective Services, the Red Cross, they send everybody to us. And so we provide them everything from food to kitchen utensils and so forth. We had a lightning strike hit a home in Flint last Easter. I don't know if you remember seeing that in the news. I got the phone call, it was about 8:30 Easter morning, and we were there by 9. And basically, this family had lost everything. And so it was 7 members of the family. We were able to remove whatever they had left from the home. We moved them to a new home, got clothing, got kitchen supplies. We had 7 beds. We're the only nonprofit, by the way, in East Texas that takes mattresses. So if you want to donate your mattress, we found a place to donate it. We can't sell them, but we actually use them to respond to this. So anyway, we were able to get this family in with 7 beds, get them up and running. So by the end of the day, they were in a nice, safe place and ready to go. So we use that a lot. A lot of the stuff that we have is basically there as that inventory for that specific purpose. And then we do have low-income families that come in. We sell a lot of prom dresses because they're very inexpensive. A lot of people have blessed us with donating those. I have to say a quick story on that. I know we're running short of time, but we had a young lady that came in and she was going to be in a Miss Texas pageant. Now, I am not an expert in Miss Texas, but I do know that there's like 100 Miss Texas pageants. So this was one of those. Well, anyway, she came in and said she was going to do this, and so she bought her dress, her costume jewelry, her shoes, and everything. Our team helped dress her up, and she won. And so about 3 days later, guess what came walking through the door? She had the crown, had the sash. It was the greatest thing ever. And we actually had the story on video. I'm sure it was sometime. But anyway, it's just a wonderful thing. And I got to tell you, that's what this is all about. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen an increase of victims since COVID?
Unfortunately, I feel like that we are now in a situation where we've had a full moon for about 1.5 years. And so what I will tell you is the more people have been constrained, the more they've got on each other's nerves, which means we've had more issues. And so yes, a lot more issues. We have a major stalking issue now in this area too, and then domestic abuse. There's a lot of problems that people are not aware of, and we see it every day. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Sam, okay, that was so impressive and so touching, and I'm embarrassed to say I never heard of Hands Up. I can't thank you enough for being here.
First of all, it's hand up, not hands up. The hands up thing might be a negative.
Hands up.
It happens all the time.
Okay, is there any limitation on donations as far as like clothes, used clothes, shoes, personal items like that?
The only thing I would say is don't bring us your trash.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of organizations that actually like to bring stuff to us because we'll for them. We're really not interested in that, but pretty much everything else we do take in. If you can imagine, if you lost everything in your home, what would you need to replace? That's exactly what we're trying to do.
All right. Thank you again so much. And for your time, we make a donation to the Literacy Council in your name.
That's
We
awesome.
hope that you'll say that with pride.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Sam. Wow. That's all I can say. I mean, thank you, God, for people like Sam and for people that realize that our community needs as much help as a lot of other places. And we don't see those. We don't see those people. We don't think about the 800 homeless. We have so much to be thankful for. So, and every day we need to think about that. Dixie?
Point out there's books and cards
Yes.
Yeah. Please, yeah, please don't leave without getting some educational materials from Sam's table over here. Hand. Okay, all right, Ace Diamonds.
You have 8 bucks. $2,771.
Read the last 4 numbers, not the last 3, because there was $181.
Okay, Sam. The last 4.
Okay, last 4. 9200. Wow.
9200.
I know. We had another name.
9200. Dixie Walker. Woohoo! Oh, wow, darn. Okay, if you'll all stand and join me in the 4 truths of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it true? Second, concern. Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. And last, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you so much again for coming today. We're adjourned.
Good job.